My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about a really interesting concept. Actually, it's a feeling, and this feeling is called compersion. Now, if you haven't heard of this feeling before, that's okay, because it makes a lot of sense. Because to be honest, number one, it's not in a standard dictionary. Now, there might be a lot of reasons for this, but let's not go over that. So let's just go over the definition of compersion to start. It is the wholehearted participation in the happiness of other people, even if it does not benefit you. So this is really a difficult concept for most people to think of. Again, if you're going to try to find a definition of it, I've heard some people say it's the opposite of jealousy or the opposite of envy. I don't think that really hits the mark, but let's talk about that for a second. So jealousy is related to the fear of something that you have being taken from you by somebody else. And envy is wanting what somebody else already has. So the closeness to compersion, I see it, but I don't think it really captures it. Another word that might actually be the opposite of compersion is a word called schadenfreude. Now, schadenfreude is the pleasure that's derived from the misfortune of others. And I think that's closer to the opposite of compersion. So we're going to talk about this a lot today. Again, compersion, the wholehearted participation in the happiness for somebody else, even if you don't benefit from that. Now, to be fair and honest, one of the reasons why I think compersion is thrown out to the side, especially in American culture, is because this is a term that's used fairly often in the polyamory community. But I don't think it has to be. I mean, the thought of your partner getting pleasure from somebody else and you thinking that is a good thing, or being able to participate in their happiness, is kind of a bridge too far for a lot of people. And I'm not here to say one way or another, but let's get past that. I still think compersion is an extremely important feeling that I think needs to be worked on, because I think it's a skill. I don't think it's something that most people are born with. Why is it so difficult? Here's my point of view. It's difficult because, number one, first of all, it's not natural. I think it's something to be aspired to. That's number one. And I think compersion is probably the highest level of feeling that a human being can have. And in order to do that, I think you'll need to put away your ego. I think you'll have to get rid of any type of self-centered thoughts. I think you'll have to separate possession, ownership, any type of manipulation, and you have to separate all that out of love. Now, I know we like to throw the word love around. You know, I love my partner, I love my spouse, I love this. And of course, I can totally understand that. But what I hear a lot of people behind the love is that if their partner has any type of happiness that doesn't include them, I don't know if they completely support that. It seems like people will say, I'm happy for you, as long as you're deriving that pleasure almost directly from me. Or if what you're doing out in the world is good and it benefits me, well, then I'm all about it. But if you're with someone who makes you smile, makes you laugh, you know, and it's not me, well, then I'm totally against it. But that's not love. That's not fully supporting another person. So I think compersion, part of it also, is to be fully and completely empathetic of another human being. So you know that you're not completely special in this world, right? You're born, you struggle, you die. Because you connect to a partner, if love to you means that they can't experience any happiness or pleasure unless it's because of you, or their pleasure or happiness somehow is derived from somebody else besides you, then we have to take a look at you might be lacking some compersion. Now this weekend, a week ago today, as a matter of fact, I was in Dallas at the American Airlines Arena. I was going to go see my favorite band, The Who, and I had a lot of time to think about compersion. And as you can see, here's the original Quadrophenia album, The Who. Here's me, right here, a very young me. I don't know if you can see that, 1992, with John Entwistle from The Who, the greatest bass player who ever lived. We hung out for a little bit. And here's The Who again right here on my Who guitar over here. So let's talk about this because I experienced so much compersion during the show and a little bit after, so I want to share that with you. I'm 56 years old. I've been a fan of The Who since I was 10. That means you've got 46 years of listening, and not just listening to music, but relating to the lyrics and relating to their lifestyle and how they look at the world. And it's kind of shaped the way I've looked at things. And so I have a very large connection to each and every guy in the group. And not to distance from anybody here or to offend anybody, but The Who is a very masculine type of band, and Peter Townsend will regularly say this at shows. Thanks for bringing your girlfriend or your wife with you today, because it's mainly like a male phenomenon for some reason. You can see the arrow with the O, it's a male symbol. And so I was up at the front. I had right off of Peter Townsend's side, a second row. And I was there with a bunch of men. I think there was one or two women up there, but I saw basically all older, successful men. And it was really interesting. And we were watching, say, Roger Daltrey try to hit his notes. And I felt, obviously, it's a good show and you have a good time. That's happiness. We all understand that. But I was experiencing compersion. Again, wholehearted participation in the happiness of somebody else. The fact that Roger Daltrey is 78 years old and can still hit these notes, just like he did or pretty close to when he was 20 years old, and he can destroy 99.9% of the singers that are out there today, makes me so happy, not just for me to hear it, but to hear him be able to do it. It's an amazing thing, especially when you're an older person and you're starting to feel your mortality and you're watching somebody at 78 who still has the power and the courage and the work ethic to still do so incredibly well. I was so happy that he could do that. And one of the interesting things about enjoying The Who and being, at least from my perspective, being a man and being up front with a bunch of other men, is that men typically don't have a good, safe place to experience feelings and emotions. And there were many times during Who songs where I feel an emotion where I would have a tear in my eye. And I always thought, well, that might be a little bit weird. But like at this show, I was sitting next or standing next to a guy that had seen The Who about 20 times, and I've seen them about 23, 24 times now. And we were fist bumping during the show. We were talking before the show. And Roger Daltrey goes into this thing where he sings, "See me, feel me, touch me, heal me." And at this point, if you don't know The Who, it's okay. Roger Daltrey has to conjure up the feeling of a very young, fragile, emotional boy who needs help. And all of us in the front that are men, we're nothing close to that 7-year-old boy in terms of age. But inside each and every one of us is that child who was hurt, who wanted to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. And when Roger Daltrey was able to summon up that inner child and to be able to hit those high notes and to show that fragileness that's inside every single man, when I teared up, I looked over at my newfound friend and I looked and he had the same look. He had the tears too. And I looked around and it's so funny that I never see men experience things, but we all did. And it was so amazing to feel that. And again, compersion, wholehearted participation in the happiness of others. I felt so happy for the guy next to me that he was experiencing that. And for all the people around me. Women too, but there really were no women at the front, I have to be honest. So like this guy was experiencing this. And what do I feel or see out of this? Here's an older guy experiencing that, feeling that. So I know what's inside him, that young boy who is fragile, who wanted to be somebody. And I know he's done well. Or at least I have a pretty good idea why. Because tickets now, when you buy them, it's not first come, first serve. It's who has the most money gets to the front. So if you're in a like 20,000 seat arena to see The Who, which is still like one of the biggest bands in the world, and listen, they're in the top 4 bands in the history of music. If you're getting up front, you're successful and you're doing well. So we all know this. We all know where we come from. So there's nothing but compersion. I feel total thrill and happiness for every human being that's up front enjoying their time there, because I know a lot of where their heart and soul exists. Total compersion on my part, not just for my happiness of listening, it was great, but it's also everybody around. And it's a very interesting, very uplifting feeling. Same thing watching Peter Townsend up there at 76 years old, still being able to windmill and do his thing, and just absolutely amazing that these two really considered to be very old men. I mean, listen, my parents did not even live to those ages, and these guys are touring the world. I couldn't be happier, but not just for me, for them, and for all these people that were at the show, especially the ones who are diehard fans that paid to be, really up close. A couple of days later, I had seen a video, and there was, the typical Who fan, and he was with his 8-year-old daughter and his wife, and right at the front, Roger Daltrey handed the 8-year-old girl a tambourine. And again, complete compersion here. I participated in their happiness, thought, like, what would it be like to change that girl's life? She felt so important. And I felt just as good or better for the father who was trying to provide that for his family. And not just, have this kid listen to this garbage, superficial music, that if they could call it that, what they listen to today. But this man gave her a great experience, and his family a great experience. So I was able to experience that as well, as total happiness for this. What was also interesting is that this show was at the American Airlines Arena. I had my room was right across the street. And the night after, the Dallas Mavericks basketball team was playing. And I'm not a fan of basketball. I never watched a Dallas Mavericks basketball game. But it was right outside my room, and so I went outside. And before the game, there were thousands of people. And mothers and fathers with their kids, and they were having a good time, and they were having these little basketball contests outside, and they had the cheerleaders out there leading the people in cheers, and people running around having a good time. And I just sat there, complete compersion, because I was so happy that mothers and fathers could get together with their children and try to give them good memories. And whether they appreciated it that day or not, I know that they will later on down the road. And I just sat back and I watched this all happen. And one of the reasons why I was able to feel compersion, I believe, is because I wasn't working. And typically when I work, I'm up at like 3:45 in the morning and I'm done sometime after 7 p.m. Almost every minute is accounted for, so I'm in my head. This, I just got to sit back and watch the world of people just trying to get through. And the other thing about being across the street from American Airlines Arena is I wanted to go there because of Mark Cuban. I believe he owns the Dallas Mavericks, and I think he owns the American Airlines Arena as well. And I watched Shark Tank. I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. And on it, he seems to be very animal or dog friendly, which of course I'm all for that. So on the big screen, I think you call it, or the monitor outside American Airlines, it seems like every 30 seconds to a minute, they flash from the ASPCA a picture of a dog, and it'll have the phone number where you can adopt this dog. And it'll say things like, my name is Stevie, I like bones, and I like to be petted by my family. And a picture of a dog. And in that moment too, I felt compersion, because there are good people out there. You know, I think compersion really needs to be pushed, because I think it's an antidote or a good weapon against depression. I think it's a good weapon against grief that we don't really talk about, and I think we need this. In terms of meditation, we think about meditation, right? We could meditate on nothing, or we could meditate on something. I have this thought that most people tend to go around the day meditating on the most negative of things. They go, the news sucks, it makes me feel bad and depressed. Why are you focusing so much on the negative? You're basically sitting there going, war, starvation. Why can we not realize that happiness is so important that we can meditate on other people's happiness, or that there are good, happy things in the world? So I sat back again, because I had the whole day to do nothing. And I meditated on the fact that there are good people trying to get these dogs homes. And somebody like Mark Cuban, who's probably a billionaire, spends a lot of his time and money on getting these dogs homes. And I love that. And the thought that they would say a dog just wants to play and be with a family. Are we any different? Really? And it makes me realize that every living thing is the same thing. That's all we want. And going back to the Who, see me, feel me, touch me, heal me. One of the things why I have compersion and why some of these Who shows are so important to the fans that go is that when you're seen, when you're heard, and you're understood, it feels so much like love that you can't tell the difference. That in that moment, you just feel love, and not just for yourself, but for everybody else around you, because you know that most of them understand and feel that way. So it's a very, very moving experience. I had another thought of compersion the other day. I see this particular person on Facebook all the time. I've never met him, not once, never seen him. But I went to the gas station the other day. I walked in to go pay, and here he was. Guy I see on Facebook all the time. And I realized when I saw him on Facebook maybe 2-3 months ago, he had open heart surgery. I think he had a quadruple bypass. And I thought, wow, how sad, he might die. And here he was. And the interesting thing about him, he's got to be like 6'11". And he looks exactly facially like Larry Bird. And he plays it up because he wears the basketball shirt. And I see these girls behind the counter going, ooh, should I talk to him? And he goes in there and starts taking pictures with people. Compersion. Again, going back to the definition, a wholehearted participation in the happiness of somebody else, for somebody else, without having any benefit to me. I was just so happy that this human being, who seems to be such a good person, overcame his quadruple bypass and was alive and was smiling and taking pictures in a store with people, including he wanted to take a picture with me. Complete compersion there. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about compersion today. Hopefully I've convinced you in some way that compersion is important. I understand it's a difficult concept. Most people are not there yet, but I think it's a skill and we can work on it. Again, happiness is so important in this world that even if we're not fully happy ourselves, we can see it in somebody else and we can be happy for them. But in order to do that, of course, we have to override our envy, our jealousy, or whatever negativity we might have inside. And I think that's a worthwhile endeavor. So my name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. Hopefully you've gotten some value out of this, and please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.